Hi, today is May the 7th, 1 p.m. I just got back from City Hall in downtown Toronto. I would like to talk about what I was doing down there. If you read the South Etobicoke News this month, it talked about a shelter being proposed down on Blue Street West. It is an they had a decision report to either build the shelter or to nix the whole entire idea. I was given the opportunity. It said they wanted feedback. You could send feedback online, or you could have gone by phone, or be on the webinar Zoom meeting. So you could have done this. But I don't know if you can see. You probably can't. No. I chose to go downtown to speak. Most of you who've been following me and following my life over the past few years since I've started doing my postings have known that I was in a shelter. So when I went down there to speak, I am going to read what I spoke about. I spoke to two counselors. I was given the opportunity after the meeting, and I spoke to someone, an individual, and I'm sorry, I'm going to forget her name. And apparently the mayor's office, the mayor herself, had heard me speaking because they piped it into the mayor's office. I was very privileged to come down, as the counselor said, for I believe it was Parkdale High Park. Gord Parks stated that this is a democracy and everybody has a voice. I want people to remember that when they get upset about what the federal, provincial, or city, any government, municipal, provincial, or federal government, we all have a voice. You are all citizens. When you are a citizen of this country, it is your duty, I feel, and this is how I was raised, it is your duty to learn about the situations, the issues that are going on within your community. It is your obligation to find out what your local MPP, councillor in whatever ward you are in, and area you're in, region, whatever, wherever. It is up to you to become a educated voice. It's not that hard. It's when they're out campaigning, they speak to people, they tell them where they stand on certain issues, and that's what they're there for. And that's what this country was built on. So I am going to read what I wrote. And good morning. My name is Michelle Verhaven. Thank you for allowing me to address the committee this morning. It is with great understanding I speak to you regarding this topic. I have taken some time to look at the plans, pictures, and ideas proposed by the City of Toronto. I'm going to stop there. If you are in any way, shape, or form opposed to shelters, or if you have any idea of what's going on, you don't know what I'm speaking about, then go online, the City of Toronto, and you'll look under the housing, you'll click on housing, and then you can look under, there's a whole bunch of proposed shelters throughout the City of Toronto, and there's different models. We're talking about a new model that has been proposed and passed unanimously to be built over at 3838 Blue Street West. The model proposed will give those in need and in crisis a chance to become a part of the community and begin their lives again, a chance to rebuild. No one sets out to be in a shelter. Some people in today's society call it the system. I was in a shelter, two in fact, since 2024. The first night I remember being in SHIP, Services, Housing, and Project, I cried. I was told that once you were in the system, you would never get out. Most were diagnosed with a mental illness or a drug addiction. I was neither. Just to clarify, and I've spoken about this before, I was diagnosed and spoken to counselor, and there was monitored by a psychiatrist over at SHIP, and I was diagnosed with housing insecurity all the way through. I was determined to get out of the shelter. I did, after the mandatory 14 days. I left for an Airbnb, taking no advice from the counselors but setting out on my own. And when I say taking no advice, the counselor I spoke to at SHIP, she gave me information about renting a room in Brampton, okay, and in Mississauga, and in other parts of Mississauga, where I did not want to be. And I believe our Heavenly Father did not want me to be. I'll speak about that in a minute. My life went on, and I landed in Etobicoke South, renting a room through Sparrow, committing to volunteering in my newfound community at Daily Bread Food Bank while looking for employment. I became homeless once again this summer after a month in another Airbnb in Mississauga. While keeping up my volunteering during the day and through a series of events, I was placed at Sacred Hand Canada. That was the shelter that I went to over on Britannia when I was in Mississauga. It's in Mississauga, sorry. The night before, I prayed for a rescue, a miracle, and Peel Regional Police brought me there. I was allowed to bring all my things and have a bed every night. Although it was in an open area, shared space, I was stable, getting meals and a shower. In addition, I was given the opportunity to do my laundry. During my time in the shelter in the summer of 2025, I found a room to rent via roomies.ca. And then eventually I moved into my own apartment for the first time in 3 years. I have what others would deem as very little. I have my own home, I have a community, I have a relationship, friends, and I volunteer at the Assembly Hall, Princess Margaret Cancer Walk, and Journey to Conquer Cancer, in addition to the Carnival Wellness Run. While still looking for employment, I've rebuilt my life here in South Etobicoke. It is possible. Homelessness is not a statistic. It is human. Providing stability is what a shelter should be. The definition of shelter is a refuge, a home offering safety and to protect. When anyone, singles, couples, or families enter a shelter, it is particularly for those reasons. To state that having a shelter in your community or in your neighborhood is saying you don't want people to have a home or safety or refuge. What is being proposed and offered is an answer to a problem that has become a plague on today's society. In one of the richest nations and richest cities of the world, when we cannot house those in need and provide safety, a refuge, or protect those who are the most in need, then what we are saying about our city, our nation, or us, then what are we saying about our city, our nation, or us as humanity? There is a saying that I learned when I was teaching preschool, and it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to help those who are in need. Ignoring and turning a blind eye to those in need explodes an already expansive situation. These proposed models are not offering just a night of solace with a meal. They are offering a transition from what has become uncertainty in people's lives, offering stability and freedom. The freedom to make choices that will give each person a chance to become productive and essential parts of the city in which they live, and to become an asset to the city in which they live, to build their lives again. And then I thank the council for allowing me to speak. After speaking, I was also spoken to by a council member, and he congratulated me and said it was a very powerful statement. When I went and sat back in the gallery, two individuals who were beside me and behind said congratulations. I learned from a police officer today that in the city, nationwide, that the chances of getting out of a shelter and rebuilding your life and having an apartment and having a relationship and having a job are actually 5%. 95% of all people who are in a shelter, they're in a shelter consistently. All you have to do is walk outside. Even coming back through, going to the streetcar, surrounded on Nathan Phillips Square area, there is a number of people who live on the streets. When a lot of people say you have to have a mental illness to be on the streets, that's not true. What happens is that if you do not have the motivation, if you don't have the drive, if you don't have that, I guess I would want to say it would be a motivation. You get stuck where you can't go beyond finding a place to sit for a few hours without being kicked out of a restaurant. Finding a place to walk, if it's winter, finding a place where you can sit and be warm without being kicked out, without having your things being in a way and having somebody come up to you and say, you have to leave because all your things are here. Like I said, we are become a society where, yes, there are those who help. There's the resources out there a lot more now than there was, but the reason why there is a lot more resources is because there are a lot more people who are on the streets, and not only on the streets, but going into shelters. Now, there comes a point in time where, and we all have choices, and this is where I'm going to say our Heavenly Father, He rescues, and He puts people in your path, and He'll rescue you. But there's that sense of it's lost hope. If you look in the eyes of those people who are on the streets, just walking around, in their eyes, it's a sense of lost hope. It's a sense of despair. It's a sense of grief, because when it's like, I had a life. Not everybody wants to be in that situation. You don't wake up one day and say, okay, that's it, I'm going to go live on the streets of Toronto. I'm going to go live on the streets of Mississauga, or I'm going to go live on the streets of whatever country or whatever city you're living in. No one wakes up wishing that they would have food insecurity. No one wakes up saying, I have to fight for a place, for a bed today, that I want to do that. No conscious person, whether you're educated or whether you're not educated, will stand and look at someone in the eye and say, I chose this life. The life that they're leading is not a life. It's not what our Heavenly Father put them on this earth for. They were meant for so much better. But having resources such as, and I believe I'm going to say Street Haven, Wedgwood Neighborhood Association, More Neighbors Toronto, the Toronto Alliance to End Homelessness, Toronto Shelter Network, Etobicoke Etobicoke Shelter Support Network, all of these resources coming together to see that there is the need, and we're saying, let's stop. Let's not put a Band-Aid over the situation and say, here's a meal for the night, here's a bed for the night. Let's put a stop to the situation. And I say situation. Let's put a stop to end this homelessness, find homes, find safety, and protect the people of the city so that they essentially can become assets to their community. No one person, that's why they go in and with drug addictions. People become addicts. They don't wake up one day and say, oh, I want to be an addict. No. All the artificial stimulants like alcohol, like drugs, they are there to numb a pain. And the pain is grief, and the pain is hopelessness, and the pain is sadness, and the pain just amounts, and they don't want to feel it. And then it becomes something that they have to have. Now, I've admitted this before. With me, it has a tendency to be junk food. It is a tendency to, because I have to be careful. I was bulimic, I was anorexic, and I did have an eating disorder, which was many, many years ago. How old am I? I'm 56, so it would have been when I was in my 20s. I have to be careful of that. And sometimes the enemy would want to come in and have it come creeping up during really dark moments of my life. But those are things I recognize, and that's the wisdom that our Heavenly Father has given me, and that's the healing that our Heavenly Father has given me. And when I speak about our Heavenly Father, He never intended to have this happen. And people would say, well, where's God? Well, you know where God is? God is in a bed, these shelters, the brainchild of the individual who proposed these shelters. That is where God is. Do you know where God is? God is in a bowl of soup. God is in a helping hand. God is little seeds being planted, and then finally comes to the point where these shelters and the City of Toronto and Mayor Chow and the councillors are saying, yeah, we see this. This is, one of the councillors said that this is decades and decades and decades of planning and decades of finding places where to put it, and decades of research, and decades of looking at infrastructure, and decades of doing this where they just don't want to say, forget it, we're going to throw our hands up in the air and try to figure it out again. No. And I applaud the City of Toronto, I applaud Mayor Chow, I applaud all the councillors and their willingness, and instead of, a lot of politicians are just say, well, this other area, this would be great if we could just sell it to a developer and then put up condos and the developer will make more money. Wouldn't that be wonderful for the City of Toronto? And then we look at our homeless situation and say, push them aside. No, they're making a conscious decision to take these models that which are amazing and to say, look, we want the people of Toronto to know that we're helping the people on the streets of Toronto, are homeless. We're helping those who are housing insecure. We're helping those who are food insecure, but this is about housing insecurity. And I would encourage each and every one of you to write to your councillors, to write to Queen's Park, to even go as far as the MP's office and say, this is what we want for our city, this is what we want for our area, this is what we want for our community and for our neighborhood. So that's where I was today, and I just wanted to let you know. Why? Because people see me coming downtown and they wonder why I'm down there. Because I'm not downtown so often, not really down like by Osgoode Hall, that area anyways. I am generally in Union Station and St. Lawrence Market. And also I do want to say that I do see you, and I am continuously praying for you every single day. And I wish I could tell you exactly, but when I say the police are so in this, I have information that is going to be shared by a police officer when I have my rally about the certain individuals who are being arrested, convicted, and on their way to jail. So that's good news as well. Have a wonderful day.